Gentlemen, can I welcome you to this meeting of Pendle Council's Executive. And item 1, declarations of interest. Are there any? No. We've got apologies from Councillor Hanif, who is unwell. I'll just ask if people can introduce themselves around the room. So I'm David Whip, and I lead the council. And
my name's Dean Langton, I'm Chief Executive.
I'm Karen Spencer, I'm Director of Resources.
Good evening, Philip Spur, Director of Police.
Good evening, Councillor Andy Bell, Vibra Bridge.
Evening, Councillor David Hartley, Eby and Colts Wards.
Good evening, Councillor Lola Whip, Bunnelswick Ward.
Evening everyone, Councillor Zafar Ali, Bradfield, Easton, Clover Hill, Portfolio Holder for Housing and Customer Services.
Good evening, Councillor Asjad Mahmood, Deputy Leader of the Council.
at the back, hang on a minute.
I'm John Holton, the Principal Planning Officer in the Policy Team.
Paul Preston, Democratic Services Manager.
Howard Culshaw, Head of Legal and Democratic Services and Monitoring Officer.
Thank you very much. And sat over there, we've got
Councillor Ash Sutcliffe, Waterside and Horsfield.
Sarah Coburn Price, Councillor for Woolsworth and Forward.
And Councillor David Coburn Price for the same.
Thank you very much. The principal issue on the agenda tonight is the council budget, and we've got quite a lot of financial stuff and reporting, which is why the paperwork is so thick. The main meeting in terms of the budget has been moved, just to make sure that people are aware. So rather than on February the 26th, that is now on the 2nd of March, Monday the 2nd of March, if people want to make sure they've got that in the diaries. Right, item 2 is public question time. There are no questions from members of the public. Item 3 are the minutes of the last meeting. Would somebody move those as a correct record, please? So they are moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Right, item 4, review of the council plan, and members will recall that we agreed the council plan. We considered some revisions to the council plan last spring, and the significant change that we've got now is the impending local government reorganisation. So the council plan has been redrafted to take into account that additional priority, and you'll see that for the most part everything else is remaining the same, but we are introducing the preparing for local government reorganisation and various actions that we've got there. And during the budget process, we'll be putting in place measures to actually back up what has been said in the plan, so that we've got resources to do it as well. Dean, is there anything further that you want to add?
I suppose the only thing is, just for members' benefit, is that the reason for including it was to provide some indication to you as well as the council staff that we now need to treat local government reorganisation as a priority for the council, not just an add-on to the other priorities. It's something that's distinct by itself, because work in that area is now starting to gather pace, and there will come a point when we're having to choose between the objectives and priorities of the council, and I want you to realise, as you all do I think, that it's now a significant priority activity of the council staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the recommendation is that the executive recommends the plan to the council. It's for the council to adopt it, and I would move that we do make that recommendation. Asjad.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would second the recommendation that we do add local government reorganisation into one of the key priorities and part of our council plan. We need to be quite focused, and we decided at the last meeting to provide the resources to give us a head start, and work with other organisations and also internally with our staff to put us in a very like a pole position, if you will, when LGR does happen, and we want to be one of the leaders in however the organisation kind of forms.
Thank you very much. Sarah, were you indicating?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well written, and I completely understand why that extra priority has been added. I have a couple of questions that could just be me being dense. The first one is on page 11, there's a map, and it shows all the places. I think it's a really good map in that it shows that it's affecting so much of the country, but I just didn't know what the pink bits were.
I believe they are the existing unitary councils that are in the mix for reorganisation. So in Lancashire's case, you can see they are both Blackburn with Darwin at the bottom,
Right.
and to the left-hand side it's Blackpool.
I couldn't see in my dark house that Blackpool was there. I see it now. I see it. Thank you. And then on page 7, the column on the right with all the ticks, and totally agree with all of those, except for the last one. I had to read it a couple of times, and I thought, what does this really mean? And it's our staff will live the organisation's corporate objectives and values, and we will recognise their achievements. I read it a couple of times, and I couldn't see whether it was to encourage them or to encourage us. I wasn't. And then I thought, well, if I'm reading it a couple of times and struggling with it, perhaps other people might be too.
Okay. I don't think that's changed.
Right.
So, as a council, we agreed to this
Okay.
not quite 12 months ago. And my understanding of what it means is that the staff will be living the life of meeting our corporate objectives, and the last bit, we will recognise their achievements, is acknowledging the contribution that staff are making, so awards and the like, in terms of how they are helping the council to achieve those objectives. I'm more than happy to recommend to the council that we rephrase that so it's a bit more plain English.
I
But
thought it
think
could be
that's
interpreted
sufficient.
different ways. I wasn't certain. Anyway.
Okay. David.
Just one quick one from me. Obviously, we've had some public feedback on this, of course, as part of that budget consultation. So 8H, the appendix there, basically says that the public value all the priorities 1 to 4 in almost equal measures with exactly the same graph. They're less keen on local government reorganisation, less interested in that perhaps, because obviously they need more education on that one. But yeah, so some good public feedback as well.
Thank you very much. Are there any further comments? With that suggestion of rephrasing that particular bullet point, are we agreed with recommending this to council? Yep, thank you very much. Okay, item 5 then is a performance update report, and it says that it's to be presented by me, but it's actually Councillor David Harker. I hope I'm not taking him by surprise. So, David.
Sorry, yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, no, you did ring me last night and said just make sure you're aware of this. So yeah, I'm very happy with the performance update report. Things are going in the right direction. KPIs are certainly being hit. There's just 5 which we seem to be struggling on. That's on the waste services, onto the recycling. Just to highlight the complaints, which is a new one that's just come in. Sickness. We've had a lot of long-term sicknesses. These I think now are in hand, and hopefully this will start to come down for the time of year. Council tax collection, which is just above where we should be. So yeah, it's all going in the right direction. And I thank all the staff on the council for the hard work for doing that. And as it says on page 7, that our staff live the life. For that, we have a regular monthly meeting with myself and Councillor Bell over at Internet, and yeah, which we can raise any problems or concerns for the next meeting that you may have, and put them direct into the right people. There's a lot of changes going on behind new areas and things like that. So yeah, I'm quite happy, and I'd like to thank everybody there for that.
Thank you. Could I ask officers, David? Could I ask officers about sickness absence and the measures that have been put in place to address that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at. Am I looking at you, Dean? Are you leaping in here?
I'm happy to come in there, Chairman. Thank you. So I think for those members who are at the Joint Partnership Board with Liberator, you received a feedback in terms of the actions the Council is taking in relation to dealing with sickness. It is fair to say that some of the sickness absence that we've experienced is for longer term conditions and conditions that do lead to long term absence, things like cancer and so on and so forth, and are in essence unavoidable. One of the things we tend to focus on is short term sickness, making sure that we've got the processes and procedures in place that when we experience incidents of short term sickness, then staff are spoken to and go through the process in the trigger limits that we have to make sure that we're on it in terms of managing that particular incident as well. So I think we're doing all of the things we do. There's the employee assistance programme too, where if staff have issues, then we divert them to that, and they can have access to support as required. So I think we've recognised it. We're doing all the things we can do, and I think for members who were at the Joint Partnership Board, there was a whole range of things that the Council is doing to try to get on top of it.
Thank you. Dan?
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the on page 5, in relation to the complaints handled, I know he kind of talks about some new system in place, but because there's quite a big drop there in handling those. How are we looking at addressing that issue?
Yeah, so it is fair to say that the system for managing complaints wasn't working as effectively as it could have been. So you hold our hands up for that. But equally, we've recognised that, and we've looked at the website to make sure that all of the complaints that are being made through the website are being picked up, and that the response times to those complaints are being met as they should be met. So I would anticipate that there would be an improvement in dealing with complaints in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you indicate, David?
I was going to ask about sickness, but I had full explanations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ash?
Thank you. I want to ask a question which you probably can't answer, but it's just a little bit of a baffling comment. It's on page 5 at 3.17, wet side attendance. And it says the total number of wet side attendances is below target, and then says this is due to expected seasonal decrease. Well, those two comments don't align, so what's going on? Right. If you've got an expected decrease, then surely it should be within target. It's that the two comments don't align whatsoever. Can anybody make it make sense?
Philip?
I'm not sure I can entirely make it make sense, and I understand where Councillor Sutcliffe's coming from. I guess in terms of the numbers within the report, obviously attendance at all leisure facilities is seasonal. It's up and down depending on the time of year. And in this particular quarter, I think there was an expectation that swimming attendance would be a little bit lower. So I think that's what the report is trying to say, but I do take the point of those words are potentially contradictory there. So I do take the point around the way it's phrased a little bit sharper and a bit clearer.
Okay, thank you. Howard's pointed out that, as the report says, the 2-week closure in December affected things, but I think the point that Councillor Sutcliffe makes is that we would have anticipated as a 2-week closure, so it wasn't abnormal. The other thing that went on in terms of wavelengths was the installation of the new water play equipment, and I do know that that affected people attending wavelengths, but I don't know how significant that is. Best I can do. Any further comments or questions? No? In that case, the report is moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Item 6, one of my favourites, the triennial valuation of the Lancashire County Council Pension Fund. And I will declare that I am a member of the Pension Fund Committee. And I have been a member of the Pension Fund Committee from time to time over the last umpteen years. I hate to think how many years. And they used to have something called the quinquennial actuarial valuation, which really trips off the tongue, but I've just got to do with triennial actuarial valuation now. So on this one, I'm very pleased to report that after a lot of toing and froing, we managed to we got the funding strategy adjusted, and the consequentials for Pendle Council and other councils across the county is that the contribution rate has come down significantly, and we are now looking at reductions in our budget for pension contributions over the next 3 years in excess of £1 million, which is not to be sniffed at. And the reason for that is that the pension fund itself has performed very well. At 31st of March 25, it moved on. Last year it got to become 135% funded on average across the whole of the 300 and odd members of the pension fund, and that's meant that the contribution rate has been able to come down in the way that it has. There was a lot of toing and froing on the pension fund committee. The issue was deferred twice and it took 3 meetings to get it sorted out, but I'm delighted that we actually got there in the end, and this council and other councils and other fund members are reaping the benefits of those contribution reductions. This report spells out the implications for Pendle, and it also makes some recommendations in terms of what we should do, and there's an option to pay additional contributions in order to protect against future pension strain, and that is included in here. We could accept a slightly lower contribution rate, but that wouldn't put money into the fund to meet pension strain from any compulsory redundancies that we might have. So the recommendation is that we do set the we agree to a contribution rate of 12% rather than the 0.6% that we could get to, and I would move that we do accept all the recommendations here, and I think, yeah, really good do. I had several people indicating, Asda.
I just want to second the recommendations. I think it's very positive news for us in here in Pendle. I'm thanking you, as leader, for lobbying and working hard on the pensions committee, and yeah, it's great news.
Thank you. Who else indicated? I've lost track. David, do you know? No. Okay. I thought there were 2 hands went up, but go on. Right, it's moving. Go on then, you want to put your hand up.
Obviously, you mentioned the budget impact, and I noted in paragraph 313 that obviously we factored in some degree of savings, but obviously we've now exceeded that, which is excellent. And obviously I like talking about cumulative numbers, which I see in paragraph 315 we do now. Thank you, Dean. So yeah, 940 odd thousand, which is excellent for the MTFP there. So yeah, as you say, all good news.
Yeah, and I mean, some other organisations, for instance, the Leisure Trust, also benefit from the pension contribution reduction. There's some employees or associated with Liberator who's no, is that right?
Yeah, stop there.
Okay, all right. So there are indirect benefits as well as a direct benefit. That's all I wanted to say, really. Okay, it's moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's carried. Right, getting into the meat of the meeting. Quarter 3, the revenue and capital budget monitoring. I will just give the headline that it's been really good work by our finance staff since the last quarter, because the projected overspend for the year end has gone down to 1/10 of what it was, and that's good news in terms of the overall budget. I'd like to praise staff involved with the increase in the take-up of Trade Waste Service, which has been an ambition of ours for a while, and that gives us an increased net income of £109,000, which is great stuff. And there was a further point that I was going to make, but I can't just see where it is on the papers. So with that, I would move the report, but ask Karen if there's anything that you want to draw to members' attention.
Just the big swings, really, if that's all right. So obviously, as Councillor Whip said, there has been a big movement since quarter 2. A lot of this is due to we've recognised the full extent of the extended producer responsibility grant, which has had a large impact. Our investment income again has increased. We've added another 125,000 onto the investment income target. And the other thing we've done is move the refuse bins and the vaults from revenue to capital, which is where they should be. Then we can pay for them over the life of the assets. So that whilst that's resulted in a big saving in revenue, the impact is a slight overspend on the capital because of the movement.
Thank you very much. Asjad.
I'm just going to second the report again. Again, very positive, news here in the sense, we've had the finance team working very hard to bring in, income from the investments. Did that last year as well, and we recognise that and want to put it on the record. And a big thank you on that. Just again, that's very positive news there.
Thank you very much. David.
Thank you. Yes, obviously the tables on page 2 do illustrate the fact we've got to get closer towards the year end as we approach it. And obviously the explanations about the table at the bottom of page 2 give us some of the things that have crystallised in this quarter, and some of the things which have surprised us a bit, but there's obviously others and overs all over the place. I just wonder if there's anything that's keeping Karen awake in quarter 4. Is there anything that you're waiting to hear that might be good, or might be bad? I think we should prepare.
I think we've got everything, haven't we?
Other than Dean.
No?
The answer is Dean.
Well, yes.
But the answer to your question is no.
Good.
Yeah.
So no surprises in quarter 4. Excellent.
Well, I think we've had the surprises in quarter 4, which we'll be coming on to in the reports that we've got coming up, because clearly the financial settlement wasn't as good as what it could have been, and whether that was a surprise, no, probably it wasn't. And there are various movements, but on the whole, I think there's been more better news than bad. Yeah. Ash, did you want to comment?
Thank you. I think there's obviously a little bit of luck there with interest rates not reducing, so that's nice to have that £250,000 extra. It is just pure luck. not something we can manage, but it's nice to see it included. I think it's credit where it's due for trade waste services. I think that's really important. It's something that's obviously valuable, but to get a £109,000 increase on that is fantastic work that's been done by that team. So I think credit where it's due there. Disappointed to see progress in returning stall holders to the market building at Colin's being delayed. That's something we're aware of, but obviously the costs attached to that are £40,000. That's very difficult, and I think it's disappointing to see after the criticism, heavy-handed criticism that the previous administration received over management of the market process at the early stages. I think the criticism needs to come squarely back to the current administration on that delay.
Well, I'll take that on the chin. I think we've managed a very difficult circumstance very well, and we've got a positive outcome. Looking forward to the opening of the market hall in Colne in the spring, and we could have been faced with very different circumstances because of the negotiations with the market operator, and given the whole process, which hasn't, as far as I'm aware, as of yesterday, been completed, there were a huge number of pitfalls which we could have fallen into, and I think adroitly sidestepping those issues means that not only have we got the opening of the renewed and refurbished market hall to look forward to, but also reflect on the fact that the market traders have been given accommodation and have been able to continue to trade, and prior to our coming in as an administration, they would have been out on the street. So I think that although it's not ideal, that it's as positive as it can be. So thank you very much. Asda?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment. I think we always get negative comments from councillors that mentioned that. I mean, we've worked very hard. I think both as elected members and also especially the officers with our to deliver this project, and it has always been challenging. We've invested quite heavily with, say, the landscaping side of things. It's a brand new food court within that proposal. We've done a lot of things on the Colne Market Hall that were not originally kind of planned, as in, so like a food court is an example. And we've got a very experienced company, trade company that will be coming and managing this eventually. We'll be very close to having those kind of arrangements in place, and I think things are looking very positive, and things will be made successful. I think once Colne Market Hall is up and running, with the traders moving back in, we'll get a lot of new traders, we'll get a new trade, and that's a great benefit for Colne as a whole, Colne, generally, and then Pendle as a whole. Whether that's just the economic benefit or just a general footfall into the town centre. So yeah, I think there's lots of positive, but we always get negative from some councillors.
Thank you very much.
Go on, sir.
Dean?
Yeah, not about Colne Market, just in terms of treasury management, there is a degree of but equally there's quite a bit of management of the money as well. So just defending my treasury management colleagues who do a sterling job. We kind of invested in and out probably £280 million this year. So it's a daily activity. They spend a lot of time doing that, and unfortunately we can't control whichever government's in power and whatever happens with the economy in terms of interest rates, but we can try to manage the money as effectively as possible so that we get the best returns.
Yeah, and I have previously praised treasury management staff in the full council meetings, because I think they have done a very good job, and the funds are actively managed rather than just languishing in a bank account and not necessarily receiving the highest rate of return. David?
Yes, just a quick one, obviously, because we had the money built up in the bank accounts because our capital projects were a bit delayed. But I see, obviously, in para 320 and table 5 that the slippage forecast is much lower than the slippage brought forward. So we're obviously pushing through on those, which is good. And the tables at the back illustrate the number of projects that have been moving along, and obviously by the year end we'll have a much cleaner picture on those projects to carry forward into next year. So it's all encouraging stuff as well.
Yeah. Okay, it's moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you very much, that's carried. Right, having looked at this current year, we're going to be looking at the future year and the budget that we're be setting on the 2nd of March. And I don't really want to spend an inordinate length of time going through all of this, because we will be doing the same thing on the 2nd of March, so I don't think it's a good use of our time. I just want to again pick out some highlights. I think it's magnificent that we are in a stronger financial position now than we were 3 and 4 years ago. I repeatedly remind Councillor David Coburn-Price that he was predicting that by this point we'd be effectively bankrupt and seeking Section 114. And instead, during this financial year, we've actually added to reserves to the tune of £1 million, and that sets us up and allows us to project a balanced budget for the next 3 years. So there has been that turnaround. And the other thing that I think is pretty good is the fact that we have maintained our 3 swimming pools. Again, some councils are saying we'd have to close the swimming pool, and instead of closing the swimming pools, we're in the midst of investing between £5 and £6 million in upgrading, making those facilities more efficient, and that is pretty good going. A bit of a health warning in the report. It does point out that government funding will be declining over the 3-year period. We do have certainty about, well, as certain as you can be certain with the current government, there is certainty about those funding levels, but they're tapering off rather than increasing. I mentioned the unfair funding settlement earlier on, which obviously is a big issue within this. And in terms of I mentioned the forecast outturn previously. Food waste scheme. The weekly food waste collection is something that is mandated by government. It's a law of the land. We've got to do it. Unfortunately, despite the fact that the government said that they would fund this with new burden funding, effectively we're having to find most of that funding within the resources, because they haven't given us a specific grant for that. And I think that's as much as I want to draw attention to. There is a lot of detail in this, and I will, as ever, pass over to Curran and Dean to answer detailed questions if I'm unable to do so. Asjad.
Thank you, Chair. Everything you said, and I'll second the recommendations. I think the main conversation we can have on the debate at the full council budget meeting later on, early next month. So yeah.
Okay, so I'll go through the recommendations one by one, because we may want to just adjust those, because the decisions are left with the council meeting.
So I mean note the recommendation.
Okay.
Most of it.
Yep. Okay. Any comments over here? Andy?
Yeah, having read through this, I mean, it's very extensive. I was able to get the paperwork yesterday thanks to Mr Preston, because I'm still waiting for the agenda for the Royal Mail, still. But I had a heavy reading last night, and I was actually pleased when I read through this for the recommendations after reading through them all, that I'd be quite happy that we take these forward to the full council with the recommendations.
Okay, yeah, we'll just run through them one at a time.
Yep.
David?
Thank you. There's a quick question about para 329 of the recovery grant. It says, despite originally indicating it would not be paid, the government will continue to provide the council with a recovery grant of £453,000 per year. Has that actually been confirmed?
Yes.
Or is that just... Right, okay.
Yes.
Is that another government U-turn then? In a
Not
good
just
way,
a
for us?
I mean, we welcome the fact that they continue to grant aiders to the level of deprivation that we need to provide for. I think the fact is that if you took deprivation fully into account, the government funding would be far higher, and if you took out looked at the council tax base and our ability or inability to raise funds locally because of the relatively low value of properties in Pendle, that that government funding should be higher. The 459 that you mentioned there is very welcome. Unfortunately, it isn't guaranteed and included in the base calculation. So,
yeah. We certainly know where government funding is concerned. Nothing's guaranteed in this world. So yeah. And I move on to just some of the appendices. Just one or two questions and points on those. The Appendix A is where we go through the robustness of the estimates and accuracy, etc. And I think, obviously, I note on page 3 there's a few warning signs there on staffing budgets, what the percentage settlement might be, vitality of the local housing market. Again, slightly out of our hands there. The government's not doing a great deal to help on that one. And obviously I note the assumptions made in terms of future interest when it comes to the fact we're spending the money on the various projects going through. But I think Appendix A is well put together and explains where we are. Appendix B, similarly, obviously we go through the risks of maintaining our £1 million provision, or £1 million general fund, sorry. And obviously we've got on the minimum side for each one, and the rationale behind each of them looks fairly sound as well. So I think, again, a well-reasoned paper on that one. If I jump to Appendix D, obviously one of the things we're noting is the fact we can save money with the performance of Pendle Leisure Trust, and it's all credit to Simon Gwynn and his efforts to revise and shake up and revisit a full root and branch review on that. As you mentioned, he's going to benefit potentially with a pension surplus or pension saving of 150,000 there. So again, that contributes quite nicely to the 300,000 they're offering, and potentially some more in the future. So I think he's done some excellent work so far, and I note on page 3 the actions for the future, where he's obviously looking at how often the buildings are open, adjust the opening hours so you get peak activity of people and you're maybe not open in the quiet periods. He's looking at how wavelengths will perform when it's reopened and all functioning properly. So again, there's a few things there which he's going to get his teeth into, no doubt.
David, can I just come in on that one? Because
yes.
This is an area that I've been looking at closely, and I think it is all credit to the Leisure Trust in the efforts that they've made, and I very much welcome the proposals that they're putting forward, because unlike previous propositions, they're not saying, oh, we'll cut this or close that or reduce one thing or another, and that is a breath of fresh air. The implications, because clearly the suggestions coming forward here do total more than the reduction in the management fee that we have asked for, but we will be looking for a further reduction in the management fee next financial year. So all that's to the good. And I think the other thing is that the Leisure Trust could use some of this headroom in order to expand services that either are there now or bring new services in, which will be for the benefit of Pendle residents. So I think that's great. And I remember the wrangling that we've had in previous years when some of the reductions put forward by the Trust haven't been acceptable to councillors, and the difficulties that those have caused. Just going back to the pensions, I'm delighted that all that work I did on the Pension Fund Committee has again proved a positive result. And I will keep reminding people of this Pension Fund Committee because I put a lot of work into that, and I'm delighted that we've got the result that we have. David, you want to carry on?
Yes, so just on that Leisure Trust one, I mean, you mentioned about previous discussions and all the endless different consultants we had, etc. I think it was our administration that visited all the sites and said, rather than cut costs all the time, let's see what we can do to generate income. So we wrote a whole number of recommendations which just weren't taken up really. Bring in catering, open up cafes, etc., host parties, all that sort of thing, which could really be revenue generating. But they weren't taken up, I'm afraid. So now we've got somebody who, whether he wants to shake it in terms of A, income generation, and B, cost cutting, then that combination works well with these numbers.
I will remind you of the, I think it was 872,000 cut in the funding to invest in repairs and improvements at the centres, and the arguments that we had at the time over that. And I am really pleased that we've been able to restore that investment and make sure that those refurbishments have been carried out, which in turn have meant that people are more likely to go because the centres aren't as run down and down as they were. But there you go.
Also, the fact that the boilers were condemned in 2013 and hadn't been serviced by the previous administration meant hopefully we've got somewhere that's nice and warm to go to as well.
Well,
yes.
We won't remind you about the cold water swimming proposal.
I love cold water swimming.
Very good. Moving on.
That will have its day. That will have its day, I'm sure.
Well, Lake Berwyn. That's where you need to go.
Going on to, I think the only other one really is obviously noting we've got each of our groups as a part of Appendix G has a starting point in terms of the proposal to go for there. I note, of course, the balanced budget is still using up £1.5 million of reserves, just in the middle there on row 14. So it's sort of balanced with reserves being used. Coming back to remember that bar, the bar chart in terms of the survey, the consultation that was done. And I note the last couple of questions when the public were asked, which of the following do you think we should do to help balance the budget? Votes are split all round the patch in terms of what to do, but the highest scoring one is reduce discretionary services. And when asked if you had to protect the discretionary services, which are the most important? We had sports and leisure facilities, which is obviously what we just talked about. So let's hope all these people that want to preserve it go there. And street cleansing. I was very disappointed, though, that supporting arts and culture got a very low score, and access to volunteering was also got a very low score. So we're in for a very depressing world if those sorts of things are cut, and we all just have to sit inside and potentially consider some keep fit and potentially look at our nice clean street out of the window. But I just note that as a kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of use of reserves, clearly the council has always planned to use reserves, and although I want Pendle Council to go into the new unitary authorities on a very sound and strong financial footing, I don't want to go into a new unitary with surplus reserves and find that all the other authorities in Lancashire have used them to invest in facilities and projects, and we are, our residents of Pendle, are disadvantaged as a result. On the survey, I think there is some useful information there. Discretionary services tend to be the ones that are most appreciated by local people, and I think that if people understand that, they champion them. Can we go through the recommendations? Dean had turned his report over thinking that we're not finished. So, on page 2, the recommendations, the first one, yes, we can tick that one. 2.2, maintain the minimum working balance at £1 million. Yep. No perception outturn. Yes. In relation to Pendle Leisure Trust, agreed to provide a grant of £1.507, £410. Yes. No to agree and the allocation of funding from the budget strategy reserve towards the transition fund for local government reorganisation set out. Yes. Make recommendations to the full council, and this is where I think that we note the recommendations put forward by the central leadership team rather than endorse them at this stage. So we're noting 2.6, 2.7, again we're noting the suggested council tax for 26-27. 2.8, tick, require each service to operate in its budget, and 2.9, request a further report, tick that one as well. So with the exception of 2.6 and 2.7, which we note the recommendation, I would move that as a proposal, and that's seconded. All those in favour please show. Thank you very much, that's carried. Item 9 is the General Fund Capital Budget, and I'm just going to have to put to one side all those appendices. So on item 9, there is comprehensive report here which talks about the capital position, the investment, sets out all the different streams that we have, and the particular bit in it that I am pleased about is the fact that in the proposed programme we do have funding for the extension at Gill Cemetery in Barnoldswick, and that's one that I look forward to seeing come into fruition in the very near future. Right. With that, it's welcome news. There's a bit more funding for Disabled Facilities Grant, and we'll do what we can to enhance that. That's it, I think. I'll hand over to Karen if there's anything further.
Nothing to add.
Nope. Moved it, seconded it. David.
Thank you. Question about in the detailed strategy at the end there. We've got
page 30.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 14.
14.
Which is called Council's Asset Base. So this is the appendix and the draft capital strategy. So page 14, where you've got a big table of the £68 million of council assets, yeah? The very bottom bullet in 4.2, it says, in addition to a number of small land/property assets, non-operational assets comprise 2 areas of land, one at Gibb Hill and one at Further Clough Head. These assets are not used in the support of delivery of council services and are retained as they may have future development potential. So is Gibb Hill a nature reserve and therefore not available for housing?
Dean.
Through you, Chairman, that's an incorrect reference to that. Time has moved on since then, so that's my mistake.
Oh, right,
we'll
okay.
correct it.
Previous wording then. Right,
Indeed.
okay, so we can remove that and label it as a nature reserve, which doesn't, as you say, delivery of services, but is also not available for that. Right. The only other one was then on page 28 of the same document. We've got the final paragraph about town and parish councils and the asset transfer and everything. And I note in the top report, we've got a table 2, which talks about the level of capital receipts coming through. And obviously, if we get a move on with the asset transfers, some of which may be at £1 or notional values, some of which may have proper tangible values, and it's a case of whether we as a council, we try to move those forward straight away or as quickly as possible, or whether we're hanging on to get the income we can get before March 28. So do we have any thoughts on asset transfer timings and boosting our capital receipts budget?
I think the strategy is to agree community asset transfers where we can, and to time the actual transfers as advantageously we can to suit both Pendle Council and the community organisations, parish and town councils that are receiving them. And that's work that is underway in dialogue with those town and parish councils. So I hope that answers your question, but I'll bring Dean in if he wants to supplement that.
Yeah, it's probably fair to say that we're not anticipating significant capital receipts as a consequence of that.
True, yeah.
Not to suggest there may not be a capital receipt, but as a fellow accountant, prudence leads the way here. Don't account for income before you get it, and that's what we're doing here. So if we do get receipts, we'll treat them as windfall receipts in that time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we are recommending this to the council, and I don't think there's anything in the recommendations that we want to reserve at this time. So I would move that. Seconded. Any further comments? All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That is carried. Item 10 is the National Planning Policy Framework. We've got John Halton here, and John, do you want to come and sit forward? Or you'd rather not? Lola,
I'm happy to introduce the item.
This is for you to introduce, and on the way over, Councillor Lola was regaling me with details of this that went in one ear and came out of the other. So I was driving at the time, so you can understand I didn't want to be too distracted. Lola.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you can understand. I mean, it's a wide range of topics. There's 225 questions set out in the consultation. I'll just read 1.2. The proposal sets out how local plans will be reviewed once adopted, which is different to the state transition arrangements for Pendle, which is a very Pendle-specific issue on this. And alongside the role of spatial development strategies, which produce over strategic authority footprints, which impacts greatly on plan making for Pendle. So those are the two sort of headline problems with this, in that it contradicts government statements about our transitional arrangements with LGR. Sorry, no, I changed to plan making previously. So in addition to that, I'll just outline some key points from this. Developments and settlements will have a new tilted balance applied in favour of development unless substantially outweighed by adverse effects, which means that your planning policies don't have as much weight in any settlement development applications. They're wanting to have plans developed within a 30-month timeline, which is very unrealistic with the current evidential requirements. But the new NPPF adds additional burdens of evidential responsibility onto plan makers over and above the current requirements. The officers have identified a disjointed approach of plan making with the spatial development strategies, The timings under the context of local government reorganisation and legislation coming into effect mean nothing is planned in a sensible sequential manner, and everything is out of order. Nothing will be joined up thinking wise. There is a good news in the 5-year housing land supply, which will be assessed against the needs assessment of the local plan rather than the standard methodology, which is good news for us because we've done a housing need assessment for our new local plan, so that will be used above and beyond the standard methodology set out. Policy HE1, heritage assets, adds a new requirement for the plan making to identify and assess risk to heritage assets, which is a considerable amount of work and should really be handled in separate legislation, separate separate areas of the council rather than in a plan making progress, which, as I said before, they want to do it in 30 months. So, I mean, adding that an entire area to the plan making that hasn't been previously done before is, I think, just unreasonable. Policy S5 gives gypsy sites an exception to sustainability requirements, which is contrary to the principal purpose of planning, in that it seeks to achieve sustainable development in the planning area. This would mean that they could be built anywhere in the countryside. There's no requirements for sustainable transportation access to the sites, which would be contrary to the local policies that seek to do that. Assessment needs is based on existing housing stock, which means that if your housing stock is, say, 0.8% bungalows, as elder accommodation, then you would need to increase your proportion of housing stock by 0.8%. But that has no basis in the actual needs, which can be assessed, of the elderly population with changing demographics. So it's just a carte blanche application of policy in terms of needs based on just
historical
historical needs, which just won't reflect local necessity. They've done a weird thing with development management policies, where policies that would usually be decided on a local level and applied with local principles and need are decided on a national level. So the same policies will be applied everywhere, and they would overtrump any local plan policies. So plans would be forced to be no longer locally specific, which is contrary to the objectives of local plan making as set out in the Act. Unauthorised developments are going to get a new weighting, which makes retrospective applications not be decided on their own merits as they are now with a pre-application. So essentially, if someone purposely builds it first to think, it's already built, they'll just pass it even though it's rubbish, councillors can use that as weight against the development to turn it down, which doesn't seem a very fair process. It requires councillors to decide intent. There's nothing in line with enforcement policy, which there should be, so it's just an overall unthought out idea. So the recommendations are to, and I'll move these, to agree the initial response as set out in Appendix 1, and to delegate the final response to the Chief Executive and portfolio holder to agree.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted that somebody has gone into the detail. I mean, at a council level, that has gone into the detail of this. But I would like to thank Neil Watson, John Halton and the team for all the work that they've done on this. There really is 225 questions, and although some of them are not applicable, there are hundreds of answers in this. I don't think, just looking at the overall impact, I don't think that these changes and proposals are to the benefit of residents and not to the benefit of good development in Pendle and other places. Can I ask John, is there anything further that you would like to make plain?
No, I think Councillor Whip has summed up the main
Just
factors
the neighbourhood plans I didn't touch on.
No.
Just briefly talk about them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
easily enough. Neighbourhood plans, in the MPPF it says that the local plan has to set a housing requirement for any neighbourhood areas that have been designated. But then later on in the document it goes on to say that neighbourhood plans can set their housing requirement based on need. That's not the way that it's calculated in the standard method and in the local plan. So there's a chance for some conflict between the two figures, and I'm pretty sure that's not deliberate and it will be ironed out by the time that the MPPF is adopted, but it's something to keep an eye on and it's something we've flagged up.
So the impact of that would be to put greater pressure on non-neighbourhood plan areas?
In theory,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sarah?
Well, thank you very much for this. I mean, this isn't the first time you've had to do one of these consultations since this government came to power. It's the second time, and I didn't feel sad about reading it because my job as the chairman of the Cone Neighbourhood Plan this weekend is to reply on behalf of Cone. So obviously I wanted to look at your work first and see what I agreed with, which is lots of it, of course. I feel that we have in northern counties a shared problem, and I would have liked to have seen this brought out more, which is, and you did bring out the whole thing about one size fits all or doesn't fit all, but it is our viability gap. Our viability gap, there is all the way through the document you make a point about our weak housing market and our low land values. But, you know, two accountants in the room here, why have we got three accountants in the room? Sorry, you were hiding there. So many, a surfeit of accountants there must be.
Are there any secret accountants who would like to chip in at this point?
Confess now, come on.
You know, why have we got a weak housing market and low house prices and low land values? And, well, it's because there isn't much demand. And I think that just shows that the standard method, which is a blunt instrument of how many houses you had always, and some of them can be empty, and quite a few of them are empty, we know this in Pendle, as the way that you set your target is ridiculous. It should be on need, you know, and actually, although you might cavil at whether the Cone Neighbourhood Plan should set its housing target on need, I'll be obviously arguing, well, yes, you should, but I also think that Pendle should. It should be the need that this area has. And the blunt instrument of how many houses you used to have, it doesn't make any sense. I'll give you an example. In 1911, Cone's population was 23,000 people. And as of now, Cone's population is 19,000 people. And there aren't many parts of the country where, compared with 1911 and now, we've got significantly fewer people in the town. And Pendle Council, over the years, has knocked down houses in Cone. So I just feel this gap of viability is so fundamental, because if people write to Jonathan Hinder, and he writes back to them and he says, we're brownfield first all the way with the Labour government. And that sounds good, and people agree with that, don't they? Until you explain to them that most places in urban areas where 70% of all building has to be, it's not viable. So once you explain that, then you say, okay, we'll not build on those unviable areas, that's what the MPPF supports, but by doing that, you make the urban areas less viable. So it becomes a thing that you can't possibly catch up with. The more you build on the greenfield land, the less viable the brownfield land is, and it's something that I really feel needs to come out in this consultation. Just going through some of it, take my spectacles off so I can read my writing. I totally agree with the dichotomy that is highlighted about the spatial development strategies. It is unrealistic to expect us to have local government reorganisation at the same time as this. And you've got to do a plan. You've got to do a plan within 30 months, plus you've got to link up with all these other councils. Are they mad? It is far too much, even with brilliant people trying their best. Now, to bang a little drum of something that I just love, and you expect me to say this, there's negativity from Pendle Council about having a local list of non-designated heritage assets. And I think this is vital. And I think it's a thing that Pendle Council should be doing. We've done it in the Cone Neighbourhood Plan. Well, when I say we've done it in the Cone Neighbourhood Plan, David laid out the pictures and I wrote it. And okay, you could say it took me time over some years because people kept sending me new buildings. But actually, if you were to put all of that time together that I spent, as if I didn't do anything else, if I just did that, I bet you that I could do the Cone list of non-designated heritage assets in about a month's effort. So I would suggest that it's not huge, and I've done it to the English heritage standards. I've highlighted why each asset's important. It's not so enormous to do the whole of Pendle. It could be done. However, looking at all the listed buildings and giving management plans and risk for them, that's immense. That's a huge piece of work. And I would contend that it is, again, something that local councils should be doing. I think that we're best placed to do it. I don't think that we've got the staff to do it. And I don't think that the government is paying us to do it. I think it should be fully funded, but I would love to see us doing it because we're closest to our heritage buildings. And from a regeneration perspective, everybody knows heritage buildings, they drive regeneration. So I would like to see us saying we'd like to do it, but we'd expect to be remunerated for it. Several occasions, going back to the viability, there's some negativity about how things like eco standards and Mark IV standards shouldn't be adopted in Pendle because they will affect viability. Let's look at what we're really saying here. What we're really saying here is we'll accept a lower standard in Pendle because we're poor. And that's a bit sad, isn't it? I don't think we should be saying that. I think we should be going for the top eco standards and going, come on, Labour government, you help us bridge that viability gap so that we don't have to worry about it. We can demand the highest standards and you're not making us feel anxious. I've been on a couple of webinars on this, and there was a councillor from Newcastle, and no, I think she was South Shields actually, and she was absolutely furious about being placed in this invidious position with the viability. I think it's disgraceful, the conflict they've put us in when we have acted in good faith on the transitional arrangements. They haven't given us that certainty, and they aren't allowing us to show our evidential, we've consulted on it, proper plans, proper plan-led system, to just try, as Lola said, to impose some development management standards from above. It's wrong. There's some other horrid things as well. I think all councillors hate PIPs, and looking around the room, I can't really see, I've taken my spectacles off. We all hate PIPs, don't we? Every time there's a PIP, we go, well, there's nothing to say about the PIP. And one of the things that they're floating is to actually bring PIPs to more houses, to up to 50 houses. That will be unbearable, and obviously we do push back on that. I wish there's a lot of no comments, and obviously we don't really care about what happens on coastal flooding, I understand that, but I would have liked to have seen fewer no comments on the renewable energy infrastructure, because I think that we've got quite a bit to say about that, of different technologies. I would like to hope that we don't no comment that and we put something in. I totally agree with the local green spaces words and Pendle's support for that. I think we don't want them trying to put grey belt into our local green spaces. They are different things. It would be development by the back door. The policy S4, the tilted balance, which Lola raised, unless substantially outweighed by adverse effects, that is just so grim. You know, we've all had to live under the tilted balance when we haven't had a 5-year housing land supply. And essentially what this is saying is we'd have it all the time. It would be awful. And we know that we'd have to be approving development that would be giving adverse effects for our communities. Just imagine what people would say to us, how furious they would be, and they would think it was us, and it wasn't. It wouldn't be us. It would be us applying that tilted balance. This policy against people who deliberately flout planning applications, we've got to try to say that they are deliberately flouting them. That's going to be loads of arguments, isn't it? How could, you know, they'll say, no, I'm not flouting, we'll say, yes, you are. I cannot see how that would help poor Julian in enforcement at all. I think it will be impossible. And then the final thing, of course, is as a council and sitting through the local plan public hearing, there was constant talk about delivery. You know, we've got something like 1,200 permissions in Pendle that we've got outstanding now. And how many of them are being delivered? And it's not something that we can do. We can encourage. I'm sure Neil Watson can ring up and say, are you going to get on with it? But essentially, we're not holding those cards. The ball is not in our court, and yet we're being penalised for it. So now this new version is saying that they can force a start. Well, force a start, as John Holton or whoever wrote that response says, doesn't mean they can force a finish. We'd just be having loads of started places all over the place, probably creating antisocial behaviour and just ugliness, and yet we won't have the finished developments that the government's wanting. I've been on a couple of webinars on this. It just seems so incredibly short-sighted. On one of the webinars was the government's chief planner, and she could not have been smugger. So, you know, I commend what's been done so far. If there could be a few little tweaks along some of the lines that I've suggested, obviously delegated, I'd be so grateful. I'll be writing on Cone Town Council's behalf, but actually I would recommend that other councillors, you don't have to answer all the questions, you don't have to answer 225 questions, you could just answer some of those big ones that you know will mean something to us. And I think the biggest one is this continual tilted balance. What a nightmare.
Thank you very much. I just echo the comments I made earlier on about my gratitude for the councillors who dive into this and understand the detail to a far greater extent than I do. I know John's made a note of the comments that have been made there, as has Councillor Lawley. And rather than respond at this point, if we can ask that Lola, if these points can be taken into consideration. There's clearly some of the issues where we may not agree with what you've said, Sarah, and we're not going to flip on those issues, but certainly where it's a case of putting additional detail in or strengthening the case, we'd be delighted to do so.
Thank you.
David?
I've just got one question, which is to John. What vibe do you get from our neighbouring authorities? Are they of the same sort of vibes? Are they got different views, given that obviously we may be merging with some or more of them?
No, the general consensus is pretty much the same as Pendle. It's premature to be setting off writing plans at the moment without an SDS in place. And one other thing that we haven't mentioned is the evidential burden appears to have gone up significantly. It was mentioned, but it's the cost of that. You know, we're spending money ahead of when we actually need to do so.
Thank you. Thanks, John. I'll bring Lola back in a minute. I mean, I think it's bonkers to be doing this, the spatial development strategy, the timing of all this. What is the point of drawing up new local plans when the new authorities will have to draw up a new local plan, and we have just drawn up a local plan? So I think there's a huge industry that we shouldn't be creating, or the government shouldn't be creating. And as I said before, it's not to the the betterment of local residents, I think it's to their detriment. Lola,
Thanks.
final contribution.
Just to add to that, and the only saving grace I would say is there's no clear consequences if we just chose to not develop a local plan as they want us to. That's the feeling I got from Neil. And so, you know, if we think it's unreasonable, we could just turn around and say we're not doing it.
Okay, or we could start and just be very slow about it.
Either way, yeah.
Yes. Okay, it's moved and seconded that we delegate authority. I think just a slight tweak in terms of agreeing to the initial response. That is subject to revision in the light of comments that have been made this evening. Okay. Right, all those in favour please show. Thank you very much. That's carried. Item 11 is a Forest of Bowland National Landscape Draft Management Plan for the next 5 years. Lola, this is yours again. I think it's simply a case of moving it.
Yeah, move the recommendation.
Yeah. And seconded. Any questions or comment? Those in favour please show. Thank you very much. It's carried. Item 12. We don't have a need here, and I don't know what this is all about. So I'm looking at Philip.
I hope you're not, Chair. I hope you're
Oh,
Karen.
we're looking at Karen, are we?
Karen.
I can do it, yes. So this is, if I can take that, yeah. So this is additional grant that the council is receiving from Together and Active Futures on behalf of Pendle Leisure Trust. The council is acting as accountable body, which is why this report has come to you, because our financial procedure rules say that if we accept a grant over £100,000, it has to get
Karen, I'm not sure whether councillors have actually got the report in front of them. No. The glitches with the production of the paperwork, which the gremlin has struck again.
Need to be on
yes, go on then.
Digital. Okay. So,
in brief,
yes. So, Together an Active Future is a grant that is being given to Pendle Council to act as accountable body for Pendle Leisure Trust. So we're passporting the grant onto Pendle Leisure Trust to deliver some activities over the next, just check the number of years, 3 years. In total, the grant is £112,500. Our contract procedure will say that if we act as the accountable body and for any grant over £100,000, the executive has to make the decision to accept the grant. So what we will do is, whatever is in the grant agreement form from, it's actually Blackburn and Darwin who are doing this on behalf of Together Active Futures, we will then replicate that into the grant agreement that we will give to PLT.
Very good.
To ensure we comply with the, yeah.
Can I move that we do indeed agree to this? Is that seconded, Zafar?
I'm sure I said a little second out of question, really.
Yep.
The reasoning for Pendle Council becoming an accounting body, from my past knowledge of this, is it something to do with VAT? Is that the benefit of us being the accountable body, or is there some other benefits?
No, it's not in that case. I think it's like when with Darwin Council,
wanting to lay off the risk.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they know we're not going anywhere, so yeah, they're passporting the risk onto us.
Asdad?
Thank you, David. So I'll second the senior online. The management fee wise, will we get? Cause I think we did something similar last year. I think it's a separate scheme, but will we get as an accountable body to management body? Because no doubt, there should be some percentage. I don't know how this will work, but You know, I'm thinking of the staff time and the resources
Yeah.
and that kind of thing.
I suspect, as Dad, that there isn't a great investment. Dean?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big grant in the grand scheme of things, and in essence, we're just a post box through. So I don't think the risk is so significant either.
And I think we're currently doing something anyway. With
Well,
the
yeah, so
PLT.
in the paper it's referred to as the deepening phase. The programme's been going for the last 6 years, so
Yeah.
it's just a further extension of money that's coming from Sport England through Blackburn through to us.
Okay. We are merely a conduit. Ash?
Yeah, and I'm more than happy for this council to act as a conduit for something like this, if I knew what it was. And that's kind of a worry. If it's been going for 6 years, what on earth is it doing? What is it delivering?
Oh, we have had reports about Together an Active Future, and I mean, generally it's a good thing. So I thought all councillors had a level of knowledge, and we can ask for people to be briefed so that everybody knows what's going on.
No idea.
Yep. Okay. Obviously, Ash, your fitness level is not high enough. Can
I'd like to compare mine against yours if you're going to make those sorts of assumptions. I'm a 5 a.m. gym goer, so...
Shall we have an arm wrestle? Okay, did I see somebody over here indicating? No. All right, well, it's moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's agreed. Item 13 is the forward plan. Are we happy to note that? All those in favour, thank you. Right, item 14 is exclusion of press and public. We've just got one item that we do need to take in private. Can I thank anybody that's been watching on the live stream and anybody watching in the future. My commiserations if you have stuck it out this long, but there we go. Right.
Recommendation.
Exclude. Moved and seconded. All those in favour. Thank you very much. And we'll just wait for John to